All right, let's talk about Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions, who obviously signed a long-term deal. I made a video on this channel earlier today, actually, talking about the contract details itself. What it's a good if it's a good deal, quarterback contracts as a whole, all that kind of nerdy math-based stuff. But I figured let's go over here and let's talk about just how good is he as a player. Because I think there's some debate there as well. I think some people kind of say his two biggest critiques he typically gets are that people will say that he's not the smartest player, and people will say he's just a game manager, which, if you think about it, doesn't really make sense. Those are kind of two, opposite things. So let's get into the film. Is there some truth to the criticisms that Goff gets, or is he just a really good quarterback? Well, let's start off with this play. This is something Goff does a really good job of, which is its zone coverage, and you see there's multiple routes he could look towards. There's the route towards the top of the screen. That's kind of more of just a one-on-one matchup on the outside, and then more of a over-the-middle route. Goff takes a snap, and he's going to look towards the top of the screen. So, okay, makes sense. That's where he's going to throw it. One-on-one matchup, sure, down the field makes some sense, and so the safety's going to go over in that direction. But Goff, I don't think has any intention of actually throwing in this direction. He's using his eyes to help get the safety out of position. He wants the other route. That's where he's going to look towards. So when Goff moves over towards the middle, he's able to, still make a nice throw. As safety did a pretty good job, Diggs, of getting back in position, but that little look away was just enough to create just a big enough window that Goff was able to make a really difficult throw and get the completion. This is maybe his best trait. And when you talk about game manager stuff, he does a lot of these little things really well. A play like this in the season opener against Kansas City was another example where it's the concept towards the bottom of the screen, which is, man coverage play, and you kind of have it designed to get the running back open underneath on a 3rd down and 6. Hopefully you can kind of throw them for 3 yards, running back can pick up the other 3, maybe even the other 8, and get into the end zone for a touchdown. I did my math wrong. The other 6 yards needed for a touchdown. But anyway, that's the concept here. That's, okay, sure, that can work. Goff is going to take the snap, kind of quickly looks over there, but I think here's actually what he's doing. This is a read that's going to happen earlier into the play, and this is kind of how the Ben Johnson scheme is designed, is you look at this, and if it's not fully open, you don't love it, which, you could make this throw. It would have a chance of being complete, but it would be a little bit tough. There is a Kansas City player running over trying to make a play. But you also have that receiver right there. This is Amon-Ra St. Brown running a route where there's kind of a rub route over the middle. This is the higher percentage play, I would say, getting to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And so essentially the way Goff runs this play is he goes to the first read. If it's wide open, just go ahead and hit it. But if not, quickly get to your next read. That's what he does, and he's able to, get the completion. They get a touchdown on that one. I mean, this is when people say game manager stuff, this is the really good stuff Goff can do, which, again, some people say you're just a game manager or, you're not a playmaker, stuff like that. But those two things aren't really correlated, right? Being able to do stuff after a play breaks down is a completely different skill set than being able to be a good game manager. Patrick Mahomes is a good game manager, right? Like, that's just a trait of being a good quarterback, and Goff being really good at that isn't a negative, it's a positive. And also stuff like this, again, you're going to get a lot of, Ben Johnson scheme, good offensive line, good weapons, all that stuff. He can make some really good throws. Something like this, one-on-one matchup, and watch this really, kind of a perfect throw right here to get this completion. Really well done by Goff. So he is capable of doing this. He absolutely is. And when he is in some of the tough situations, he can still make things work. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that, the good situation doesn't help him. For example, something like this, where what's going to happen is this is going to be a zone coverage play that the Atlanta Falcons are running. So it's a lot of what they ran last year. It was a lot of zone. So you can kind of game plan around this, like having a receiver who's going to start off on the right, the offense's right, and run over the middle. He is the only, a wide receiver who's out wide right here. That's, worth noting. There is another receiver who is, sort of in line on that side of the field as well, but not a lot of wide receivers here. More tight ends on this play. So because of that, that wide receiver is going to get the extra attention, right? That's usually what's going to happen. So when you have a tight end run, kind of slip out to where there could be an opening, this is, potentially, if no one picks him up, he could get wide open. As you see when Goff takes a snap, usually you'd like a linebacker or someone to pick up the tight end. Here, that didn't happen, and Goff did have to get rid of the football quickly. He was about to get clobbered, so, good job by him to do that. But this is a well-designed play that Atlanta did not play particularly well, and you have a player wide open. And this is just something that we saw a decent amount, was Ben Johnson was able to constantly, X and O his way to getting players wide open. As you see, Goff still, to his credit, makes a nice throw. Laporta's able to make the grab. Good job by him to run the right route and everything. But yeah, again, I think some people have kind of said, oh, when Goff was with the Rams, Sean McVay got all the credit. Now he's with the Lions, and Ben Johnson gets all the credit. Listen, I'm watching the games, right? And Sean McVay does a really good job of scheming guys open, and so does Ben Johnson. That's just how I see it. But again, these aren't negatives for Jared Goff, really, right? I guess you could say it's a negative in the sense of all of his box score stats aren't just because he's being awesome, but that's the case with every quarterback, right? Every quarterback gets guys schemed open and stuff like that. It is fair to, within the context of how are we evaluating him as a player, to mention that yes, there are games where his box score stats get inflated because of, stuff like this. But again, I don't really pay attention to passer rating and stuff like that. I watch film to get my analysis on him. So I don't view this as a negative. Just I think some people might view these plays as more positive than I would. As for the negatives, there really aren't a ton. There's he's not a huge playmaker. When plays break down, that's not really his game. But again, for the Lions, their whole mindset is let's have an offense that doesn't have that happen too often, which, they did last year. So, something like this where it's going to be a one-on-one matchup right here. This is the other big negative you'll definitely throw at Goff. He'll just have some head scratchers at times. Watch how when this play begins, you see him run to play action. This was in the playoff game against Tampa Bay. And on paper, you can kind of see what Goff sees, but if you're going to make this throw, you really have to laser it in there and throw it kind of wide, especially on a second down and goal at the 3-yard line. The last thing you want to do is turn the ball over here. But you see Goff, there was some pressure, so kind of fade away throws it, but that just should have been an interception. There was way too much air under it. It was way behind. It was nowhere near where you wanted it to be, and it almost seemed like more of a decision than just a bad throw there. He'll have these. You will have the occasional Goff, what are you doing play. Against the Rams, he just threw a ball backwards when he was under pressure at one point, and luckily for him, this pass was dropped. The fumble I talked about was recovered by the Lions, so these kind of things didn't end up really biting them last year on their playoff run. But, you have to wonder if this was intercepted. Does Tampa Bay win? Who knows? Would have been an entirely different game. If that fumble was a fumble against the Rams. Do the Rams win? That was a very close game. Who knows? But it's not like he's doing this stuff all the time. I do think some of the narratives with Goff are a bit outdated. I don't think he's a dumb player at all. I do think he is someone who is better when he's on script. I think that's absolutely true. And you will have to deal with a head scratcher or two in there. You just will. But the good outweighs the bad. He consistently puts the ball in the right position, can make tough throws, and runs an offense very well, and is in a perfect offense for him. So definitely there's a lot of value in someone like Jared Goff. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.